During our date, I suddenly got a text message, "The mistress will die tonight." I didn't take it seriously, after all, I wasn't anyone's mistress. But that night, while Sawyer and I were getting intimate, there came a sudden knock on the door. "Honey, I'm home." The voice froze me. I shoved Sawyer away. His kisses were still burning on my neck. My whole body trembled. "You lied to me." I pointed at him. "You're married?" He looked uneasy but tried to calm me down. "Claire, I'll explain later. Please, just hide for now, okay?" No. I wanted to tell his wife that her husband had been pretending to be single and lying to me for 3 months. Sawyer tried to soothe me while shouting toward the door. "Scarlett, wait a minute. I'm in the shower." I froze. My voice shook. What did you say her name was?" "Scarlett." My mind went blank. I had no choice but to hide inside the wardrobe. The reason was simple. The daughter of our company's CEO was also named Scarlett. If it were anyone else, I could prove my innocence and never see Sawyer again. But the CEO's daughter? I couldn't afford to offend her. Even if I told her I had no idea, would she believe me? I'd never met Miss Scarlett in person and had no clue what kind of woman she was. I couldn't take that risk. So I crouched in the dark, praying this would all be over soon. Sawyer opened the door for her. They walked into the living room together, and I heard Sawyer's gentle voice. "Weren't you supposed to be in France? Why are you back early?" Scarlett's voice was soft and sugary. "I missed you." They snuggled up on the couch, right where I'd been sitting just minutes ago. I could barely breathe inside the closet. Then Scarlett suddenly stopped moving. Her eyes shifted past Sawyer's shoulder, toward the dining table. "What's that?" Sawyer froze. He turned to follow her gaze. On the table sat 2 used wine glasses. Scarlett's smile stiffened. "Baby, didn't you say you were home alone tonight?" Panic flickered in Sawyer's eyes, but he quickly composed himself. "All right, I lied. The CEO of Rising Tech came over. He wants me to start a business with him. I didn't tell you because I know you're against it." Scarlett pouted. "That guy's unreliable. If you really want to start something, I'll talk to my dad and find you better connections." Sawyer chuckled and pulled her into his arms. "You're right, I'll do whatever you say. I'll stop talking to him." After a bit of flirting, Scarlett got up to make pear syrup for him. I had to admit, she really loved Sawyer. A billionaire's daughter, and yet she was personally making soup for him. While she was cooking, Scarlett casually gathered the wine glasses from the table. Her hand froze. One of the glasses had a faint lipstick stain. Her gaze began to sweep around the room. For a brief second, I felt like she was looking straight at me. But maybe it was just my imagination, because she looked away soon after. She brought the pear drink to Sawyer. Sawyer finished the drink and leaned back on the couch, drifting off to sleep. Time ticked by, and I grew more and more anxious. He'd told me he'd find a way to distract Scarlett so I could escape. But now, he was asleep. The air in the closet grew thick and suffocating. I could barely breathe. Then I noticed something was wrong. Scarlett was spreading plastic sheets on the floor. Then she put on rubber gloves. And next, she picked up a knife. In one swift, clean motion, she slashed Sawyer's throat. I froze. It took me several seconds to understand what she'd just done. Covering my mouth, I bit back a scream rising in my throat. Sawyer's head rolled off his shoulders. His face turned toward the closet. His eyes were wide open, staring straight at me. Scarlett began cutting up the body. Her movements were practiced, first breaking the corpse into large pieces, then slicing those into smaller ones. Then she went into the kitchen. In the same kitchen where Sawyer and I had just tasted wine together, Scarlett set a large pot on the stove. I didn't need to guess what she was planning to do. The first batch of meat was already boiling. My stomach churned violently. The nausea and terror hit me so hard my mind went blank. What should I do? Call the police. Yes. I needed to call the police. I pulled out my phone, only to find it dead. Peeking through the crack of the closet door, I spotted Sawyer's phone wedged in the couch cushions. I could use his phone to call for help. I tried to stand up, but my legs were too weak. I stumbled and hit the closet door with a thud. The chopping sounds from the kitchen stopped instantly. I remembered that text, the one that said, "The mistress will die tonight." When I first got it, I thought it was just a prank. But now, it felt like a final warning. At this point, regret was useless. Scarlett was walking toward the bedroom, a sharp butcher's knife gleaming in her hand. Step by step, she came closer to the closet. I started shaking uncontrollably, biting my teeth hard so they wouldn't chatter. Then, bang! Scarlett yanked the closet door open. The closet was empty. She stood there, holding the knife. Blood dripped from the blade, onto my face. Because yes, I wasn't in the closet. I was hiding under the bed, right beside it. If Scarlett just leaned down, she'd see me immediately. 1 second. 2 seconds. My heart pounded so hard I thought I'd pass out. Then, she turned away. She walked off. The sound of chopping started again in the kitchen. I crawled out, grabbed Sawyer's phone from under the couch. What was his password? Think. You've seen him type it before. First try, wrong. Second, still wrong. Finally, on the third try, it unlocked. I exhaled in relief and opened the message app. Scarlett was still in the kitchen. I couldn't risk making a sound to call, but I could send a text to the police. My hands were shaking so badly from nerves that I accidentally hit the lock button. The screen went dark. I cursed silently and was about to type the password again, but then my hands froze. The black screen reflected 2 faces. One was mine. The other was Scarlett's, right behind me. The sound of chopping was still echoing from the kitchen, but somehow, she was already here. Her eyes were wide and dark, staring at me through the reflection. She whispered softly, "Didn't you get my message?" Silence. Then I screamed, a raw, terrified scream, and bolted for the door. But before I could reach it, something heavy slammed into the back of my head. Pain exploded. The world went black. When I came to, I was being dragged by Scarlett. It was hard to believe a woman could be that strong. She was dragging me with one hand, as if I were just an old sack of garbage. She dumped me in the bathtub. "Do you love him?" she asked. My wrists and ankles were tied. My lips trembled, but I couldn't speak. Scarlett stood up and walked toward me. I squeezed my eyes shut, bracing for the knife. But suddenly, the doorbell rang. Scarlett set the knife down. She stuffed a towel in my mouth and went to open the door. A man walked in. He froze when he saw her, startled. "Scarlett, you're back?" I recognized his voice. It was Damon, Sawyer's friend from downstairs. I'd seen him earlier that day, when Sawyer and I took the elevator up. Damon's eyes had lingered too long on my legs. It made my skin crawl. I told Sawyer, but he only smiled. "That guy's a flirt, but don't worry, he wouldn't dare touch my woman." I hated Damon, but right now, he was my only hope. I kicked as hard as I could. My foot hit the sink. A big bottle of body wash crashed to the floor with a loud thud. Silence fell in the living room. "Scarlett," Damon asked carefully, "is Sawyer in the bathroom?" I thrashed harder. "Come on. Please come here." And maybe heaven heard me, because I heard Damon's footsteps approaching. But just as he was about to reach the door, Scarlett stopped him. "Damon," she said quietly, "I know about Sawyer's affair." Damon froze. He looked awkward, searching for words. But Scarlett did something unexpected. She wrapped her arms around him from behind. Her silk dress pressed against his back, soft and warm. "If Sawyer can cheat," she murmured, "then so can I." "Damon, haven't you always wanted me?" From the bathroom, I listened in horror. I heard heavy breathing, soft moans. Then, suddenly, Damon's voice turned rough. "You think you can fool me, you lying witch?" he growled, tightening his hands around her throat. "Sawyer told me about women like you. None of you can be trusted." Scarlett struggled, gasping for air, then went still. Damon shoved her body onto the couch and rushed to the bathroom. "Sawyer! Sawyer!" he yelled, slamming the door open. But instead of Sawyer, he found me, tied up in the bathtub. "Where's Sawyer?" he shouted. The towel was still in my mouth. I could only stare, eyes wide, trying to warn him. He pulled the towel out, and I croaked out, "Behind you." "Behind me?" Damon frowned in confusion. "Sawyer's behind me?" Then realization flashed in his eyes. Because in mine, he saw what was actually behind him. Not Sawyer, Scarlett. Damon turned, but it was too late. The knife plunged into his back, the blade bursting out through his chest. He collapsed. I screamed, voice raw and broken. Scarlett glanced at me, stuffed the towel back into my mouth, and went back to her gruesome work. Time blurred. I must have passed out more than once before I opened my eyes again. Scarlett was standing quietly across from me. I jolted in terror. She didn't even look at me, just turned on the shower, washed herself clean, changed into fresh clothes. She burned her blood-stained silk dress. and flushed the ashes down the toilet. When she was done, she crouched in front of me, looked me straight in the eye. "Do you love him?" I burst into tears. I didn't even know why I was crying. I whispered, "No, I don't love him." It was the truth, but I didn't know if she would believe me, or if she would let me live. Scarlett stood up, walked to the living room, poured a glass of red wine, and handed it to me. "Drink it." I stared at the glass, then at her. There was no choice. I drank it. 10 minutes later, everything went black. 11. I woke up by the river. The sunlight stabbed at my eyes. I looked down at myself. My clothes were intact, and even my dead phone was still in my pocket. I stumbled along like a madman until a car drove past on the road. I ran toward it. The driver rolled down the window and shouted, "Are you trying to get yourself killed?" Tears streamed down my face. "Call the police. Please, call the police." 12. 2 hours later, I was sitting in a police station. Across from me was a female officer with short, neat hair. She introduced herself as Tessa. "So let me get this straight," she said. "Scarlett, the daughter of Mingy Group's chairman, killed your boyfriend Sawyer and his friend Damon, and you saw everything?" I nodded heavily. Tessa continued, "According to our investigation, Sawyer and Damon are currently missing. Last night, there was a power outage in their building. None of the cameras recorded anything, but the nearby road cameras were still working." She flipped through her notes. At 2:35 a.m. A black Land Rover left the neighborhood. "That's Damon's car." The driver wore a baseball cap and a mask, so we couldn't see his face. My heart raced. "That was Scarlett," I blurted out. I told Tessa my theory. Scarlett must have finished dismembering the bodies, then put me, unconscious, and the remaining corpses into Damon's trunk. After killing Damon, she took his keys, changed into his clothes, and drove his car out to the suburbs to dump the bodies. The remains went into the river, flowing out to the sea, and she left me by the riverside. Tessa raised an eyebrow. "So according to you, she sent you a text saying the affair dies tonight, but didn't kill you in the end?" "Yes," I said. "Any idea why?" I shook my head. "No. I can't guess the mind of a killer." Tessa nodded. Just then, her earpiece crackled. She looked at me. "Scarlett has arrived at the station." 13. Tessa led me to meet Scarlett. My whole body trembled. "Don't worry," Tessa whispered. "You're safe here." Still, my knees kept giving way, and she had to steady me. A police officer opened the door for us. Inside, Scarlett was sitting calmly on a chair. Hearing the door, she turned her head and looked at me. I froze. The sunlight was warm outside, but I couldn't stop shaking. I whispered. Tessa said gently, "This is Scarlett." My whole body went limp. I didn't recognize her at all. I'd never seen her before. 14. The woman from yesterday was tall, with a pointed face, pale skin, and delicate features. The Scarlett in front of me now was petite, with a round face, big eyes, and tan skin. They were not the same person. I completely lost it. No! The killer was Scarlett, not her. I cried. Tessa tried to calm me. "Claire, this is Scarlett. We've verified her identity." Scarlett, furious, shouted at the police, "I don't even know who you're talking about, Sawyer." "Damon? Is this woman crazy? Do you believe every insane accusation you hear?" Tessa had no choice but to take me out of the room. Back in the interrogation room, she asked, "Miss Claire, do you have any history of mental illness?" Her eyes dropped to my collar. I froze. There were burn marks on my skin, from when I was in high school, sent for treatment by my parents. I murmured, "I'm not sick. No, I'm not sure." Tessa looked at me helplessly. Finally, she said, "Miss Claire, go home and rest. We'll contact you if we need further cooperation." 15. Tessa. My name is Tessa, and this is my 10th year as a police officer. After sending Claire off, I started reviewing the case files. Both Sawyer's and Damon's phones disappeared with them, but Damon's tablet contained some of their chat records. They had been friends for many years. More precisely, Damon was Sawyer's devotee. In terms of background, Damon actually came from a better situation. His parents passed away early, leaving him a fortune. His home in Liyuan 1501 and his black Land Rover belonged to him. Sawyer's family was relatively poor. But Sawyer had a talent. He knew exactly how to charm women. In college, he drove luxury cars, wore fancy watches, funded by wealthy women. Later, he even taught online courses, becoming one of the country's earliest PUA, pickup artist, masters. Damon was one of his students. He watched Sawyer manipulate indifferent women effortlessly, feeling both envy and admiration. Sawyer taught him, getting her first time, or her money, that's nothing. True skill is making her love you enough to die for you. This was the final stage of PUA techniques, emotional manipulation to the point of suicidal risk. Their target was Gemma, a girl who had rejected Damon. Sawyer approached her, manipulated her emotionally, and after a year and 8 months, she jumped to her death. From then on, Damon idolized Sawyer even more. But what Damon admired most wasn't that. It was that Sawyer managed to seduce Scarlett. When I saw the name Scarlett in their chats, my heart skipped a beat. Damon praised Sawyer in the messages, marveling that even a top-tier wealthy beauty could be conquered by him. And Sawyer didn't stop there. He still pursued other women, even bringing them to Scarlett's apartment for the night. Damon asked, "Aren't you afraid of getting caught?" Sawyer replied, "Even if I'm found out, Scarlett loves me too much. She can't leave me." Reading these chats, I couldn't stop thinking. The chats matched Claire's testimony. She witnessed the entire killings of Sawyer and Damon. But, when it came to Scarlett herself, it didn't add up. According to the chats, Sawyer met Scarlett in September last year. But that month, Scarlett was in New York, never returned to the country. During the 2 months Sawyer claimed Scarlett was falling for him, she was secretly dating a male celebrity in the entertainment industry. As for last night, Scarlett was at a nightclub watching a popular rapper with friends. Security footage shows she never left, no time to commit any crimes. Then it clicked, the strange feeling I had was real. The Scarlett Claire, Sawyer, and Damon referred to, and the real Scarlett, were two completely different people. But that still left a question. Damon's apartment upstairs, Liuan 1601, is Scarlett's property. If someone impersonated Scarlett, how could they enter her home so easily? I jumped up, knocking over a teacup on the desk. The young officer beside me flinched. "Tessa, check everything, every record on Scarlett," I ordered. "We already did, from last year to now." "Not enough. Go further back, 10 years, no, from birth to now. Every record must be checked." I realized the only explanation for all this strangeness. There really are two Scarletts, and the fake one is being protected by the real one. 16. "Tessa, look at this." When the young officer placed a photocopy of an old newspaper in front of me, my hands trembled. Honestly, I had suspected that the fake Scarlett came from a powerful background. After all, according to Claire, her psychological strength and methods were professional, like a seasoned criminal. But when I traced her history back to the source, her identity shocked me. At the end of the last century, a man named Preston and his gang bought illegal guns near the Yunnan border. They started with robberies and killings along the highway and then moved on to kidnapping children for huge ransoms. Scarlett was their last victim, and the only one to survive. On April 18, Scarlett escaped from Preston's hideout and ran onto a nearby road, where a passing truck driver rescued her. The driver called the police, who confronted the gang. Preston was killed on the spot, and the rest of his gang were sentenced to death after arrest. The case made national headlines. The only person unaccounted for was a girl, referred to as Vivian. Some said she was Preston's daughter, others said she was adopted. Because Scarlett was so young at the time, authorities didn't interrogate her deeply for psychological reasons. But existing records hint at a possibility. Scarlett's survival in Preston's gang, where no one lived, may have a lot to do with Vivian. The young officer beside me looked pale. I checked the gang's statements. Several members said Vivian's job was to dismember and dispose of bodies. Because she was a little girl, even if witnesses saw her throwing things into the river or trash, no one suspected her. So, the case with Sawyer and Damon, cleaned up so neatly, the real killer is Vivian? I stared out the window. Night had fallen, and a biting cold seeped in. I felt closer to the truth but somehow more lost in the fog. The officer whispered, "But why would Vivian kill Sawyer and Damon?" I closed my eyes. Remember the girl Sawyer and Damon killed? Gemma? I pulled out 2 photos, one of Gemma's ID picture, and one a sketch of the fake Scarlett, drawn by a colleague based on Claire's description. Placing them side by side, the officer gasped, "They look so alike." 17. "What do you mean, Tessa? Are you saying Gemma is Vivian?" "No." I shook my head. Initially, seeing how similar they looked, I'd subconsciously wondered the same. But it was quickly ruled out. Their birthplaces and dates don't match. Vivian should be 2 to 3 years older than Gemma. and Gemma's records are complete. She grew up with her grandmother, poor but studying with scholarships. Every year has documentation. Plus, Gemma was already dead. She couldn't have come back to kill Sawyer. The young officer flipped through Gemma's records. Gemma had a rough life. Her parents abandoned her young, and her grandmother was her only relative. A year after she died, her grandmother passed too. I sighed. Sawyer usually targets girls from broken families, girls deprived of love and social experience. Suddenly, a thought struck me. Her grandmother, I murmured. What is it, Tessa? Vivian didn't have a proper household registration. She couldn't have been Gemma's classmate or coworker, so I've been wondering what their real connection was. I have a feeling this grandmother was the only link between Vivian and Gemma. It was late at night, the room brightly lit. After hours of searching, the officer rubbed his eyes, excitedly shouting, Tessa, look at this. We gathered around the computer. It showed surveillance of the grandmother picking up medicine at a community clinic. A woman was helping her, tall, pointed face, delicate features, very much like Gemma. The officer called around, then returned. Tessa, the nurse said the grandmother called this woman Gemma at the time. But he didn't continue, but we all understood. This woman couldn't be Gemma. The footage was from last spring. Gemma had already died. This woman was the fake Scarlett, or Vivian. 18, Vivian. My name is Vivian. Not really a name, just a code. I don't know my biological parents' names. They were killed by my godfather when I was 2 because they wanted to leave the gang he led. I should have died too, but my crying saved me from the police by chance. My godfather said I brought him luck and kept me. In the gang, no one got free meals, everyone had to work. My job? Helping my godfather dismember bodies. The first time I did it, I had nightmares, crying for my parents. Later, after doing more, I stopped dreaming. I learned that crying didn't help and would make my godfather suspicious. One day, my task changed. He didn't have me dismember a body. I had to bring food to a little boy. He was crying. I said, don't cry. I heard my godfather call your dad. He gave him 60,000, and he'll come get you. The boy was happy, ate the food, and I finished my work, sleeping afterward. Then someone woke me. Vivian, work. The boy was dead. I later learned my godfather's work was kidnapping. And his type of kidnapping? The worst, collect ransom, then kill. I quietly buried the boy. I knew he was already dead. Even if I cut him, he wouldn't feel pain. But I didn't want to. I had lied to him and felt guilty. All I could do was let his father take him home whole. When I returned, my godfather stopped me. Handled it? He asked. I said, yes. It was the first time I lied to him. He had said anyone who lied would be killed. That moment, I wasn't scared. Kill me if you want, no one else was going to save me anyway. He didn't realize I lied. He said, the new one won't eat either. Check on her. I went to the attic. There was a little girl. She said her name was Scarlett. Scarlett was more optimistic than the boy. My dad will pay to save me, she said. Then I can go home, right? I was silent for a long time. Then I said, right. She smiled. Do you want to come to my house? I have new Barbie dolls. All the other kids don't play with me. They say I have a princess problem. I don't want to play with them either. Your clothes are so dirty. No maid to help you? At my house I can dress you up. I dress my Barbies myself. I stayed with Scarlett for 3 days. The attic was freezing, and we huddled together to sleep. It was one of the few warm memories I had since I could remember. But warmth never lasted long. That evening, I overheard my godfather talking with his uncles. He said they'd collect the ransom at 9 that night. I already knew the process. Scarlett would never go home. As soon as the ransom arrived, they would kill her. I returned to the attic without a word. I took 2 steamed buns and a plate of food, and we ate together. While eating, Scarlett asked, Vivian, have you ever seen the sea? No. Me neither. But my dad says he'll take me to the beach this summer. You'll come too? He says the sea is beautiful. I listened quietly, saying nothing. The sun sank red like blood. Darkness came. I looked at Scarlett and said, take off your clothes. She stared at me, frozen. If you want to go home, you have to do exactly what I say, I told her. She seemed to understand the seriousness. Slowly, she removed her little dress. I handed her my clothes. Put these on. Her lips trembled. Vivian, go down the stairs, hold your stomach. If anyone asks, don't say a word. Run toward the hill on the east side. Once past the hill, keep running east, that's the road. Scarlett shook, but she understood. I had already put on her clothes. She grabbed me. Vivian, no. That's fine. My godfather won't kill me, I lied. For betraying comrades, he was far more ruthless, but she believed me. Taking a deep breath, she covered her stomach and ran downstairs. I heard mocking laughter below. Vivian, got diarrhea again? Look at her run, like she's escaping for her life. My heart was in my throat. I was terrified they'd shoot. But they didn't. The laughter faded as they started playing cards. Scarlett had escaped. I watched the sun disappear completely. Darkness swallowed me, yet I felt a strange sense of calm. The people below grew tired. I heard one ask, "Where's Vivian?" An uncle went to check. No one passed the hill. Silence. Then my godfather said, "Check the attic." Footsteps climbed the stairs. They were coming up. I waited quietly. In that moment, death became tangible. I saw all the people I had dismembered, and the little boy. I whispered to him, "I'm sorry." Then he vanished. Gunfire erupted downstairs. My godfather roared, and people shouted, "The cops are here." An uncle charged, they knew they needed hostages. But as the door opened, I plunged my knife in. His eyes went blank. I ran. Police cars surrounded the ground floor, my godfather and his men retreated into a car. Shots rang out, but I didn't care, I ran. Low shrubs hid me. Police saw me from afar. I was wearing Scarlett's clothes, they didn't shoot. I ran across the hills, under the moon, and finally dove into the rushing river. It was only later I learned that day was April 18th. My godfather's entire gang was wiped out in what became known as the 418 case. Everyone except me was dead. After that, I had no home, no identity. The only skill I had was dismembering bodies. At first, when IDs weren't checked strictly, I could do odd jobs. Later, with stricter checks, I survived by stealing. One day, starving, I saw steamed buns in a house kitchen. I decided to steal too. I climbed in from the shared balcony. But as I grabbed them, I heard the door open. I thought I was done for, the only survivor of the 418 case, caught stealing buns. But the person didn't shout. Instead, she said, delighted, "Gemma's back. How are Grandma's buns?" The homeowner was an old woman, nearly blind and a bit forgetful, probably early dementia. She mistook me for her granddaughter Gemma. I played along. When I tried to leave, she looked disappointed. "Already leaving?" I bought fennel. "Tomorrow I'll make dumplings for you." I didn't like fennel. But seeing her pitiful face, I said, "I'll come tomorrow." The next day, I entered through the front door to eat dumplings with her. The woman couldn't cook well. The buns from yesterday weren't fully cooked. I ended up making the dumplings, 6 out of 10 split open, but she was happy. "Gemma is so filial," she said. I felt angry. This Gemma left her poor old grandmother alone. How was she filial? Yet the old woman completely believed I was Gemma. Every sound I made her happy. I kept telling myself this would be the last time, but I couldn't resist. I told myself she needed me, but really, I needed her. Having someone waiting for you at home feels like this. I began to envy Gemma. Later, I went with the woman to the community clinic. The doctor humored her, calling me Gemma, but secretly asked me, "Are you a volunteer?" I nodded vaguely. She thinks I'm her granddaughter. I can't help it. Then I asked, "Do you know Gemma? When will she come home?" The doctor paused. "Gemma isn't coming back. She's dead." Gemma was killed by a man named Sawyer. After her death, I took her place, accompanying her grandmother in her final days. One day, her grandmother brought me to pray at the household Buddha statue. She asked for my safety. That night, she didn't call me Gemma. Sometimes she was clear, sometimes not. Maybe she realized I wasn't Gemma but chose not to expose me. I slept well that night, the first proper sleep in over a decade, no nightmares of my godfather or dismembered bodies. In a long dream, a bullet hit my forehead, yet I felt peaceful. I woke to find her grandmother had passed in her sleep, a serene smile on her face. I handled the funeral, then went to Gemma's city. I shared many meals with her grandmother, sometimes thinking I really was Gemma. But Gemma was gone. I wanted to do something for her. My only skill? Killing and dismembering. Gemma had enemies. Perfect coincidence. I never expected to see Scarlett again. Over the past decade, she had been looking for me. She had grown up. I had too. Yet when we met, it felt like time snapped back to that blood-red attic. That night, we hugged as children once did. I told Scarlett, "You shouldn't have come. I'm going to kill someone." She said, "Whatever you do, I'll help you. Vivian, remember, you're my best friend." Everything after that went smoothly. I pretended to be Scarlett and got close to Sawyer. We planned to make our move on April 18th, in one of Scarlett's houses. Scarlett had a solid alibi that day. She'd be out all day, watching movies, eating out, going to nightclubs. Anyone checking would see she wasn't involved. She wasn't the one killing anyone. At most, her identity was being used without her knowledge. But I hadn't expected Sawyer to be so bold and reckless. That afternoon, I saw a girl with him, someone he had been secretly dating while I was Scarlett. Sawyer had been playing the field while pretending to be in a relationship with me. I had managed to scare off a few girls before, but I had missed this one. Luckily, Scarlett knew her. The girl's name was Claire, and she worked for Scarlett's father. Scarlett had seen her resume on her dad's desk. I got Claire's number and sent her a message. Normally, a girl would confront her boyfriend immediately if she found out she was the other woman. But Claire didn't react. She put her phone down and continued holding Sawyer's arm. At first, I was confused. Slowly, I understood. Later events confirmed my suspicion. Now, I sat in the dark. Sawyer and Damon were both dead. But the situation wasn't over. Someone across the room whispered, "That cop, Tessa, is a tough one." I didn't reply. I just stared at my phone. Scarlett and I had a plan. If she was safe, she would send a photo from a secondary account every 3 hours. 4 hours had passed. No updates. I knew Scarlett had been captured. Tessa, the suspect still refuses to cooperate. It was the 3rd hour Scarlett had been in the interrogation room. She was calm, drinking water, spacing out, even asking if there was food when she was hungry. She seemed determined to stall. I entered the room. "Do you think stalling like this will help?" I asked. Scarlett smiled. "I don't know what the officer means. I've answered all the questions I can. Nothing here concerns me. If they want to hold me, let them. But when the time comes, they have to let me go." I said, "You're being too optimistic." Part of Sawyer was found at the river mouth. DNA confirmed it's his. The city police have filed a case. Vivian won't escape this time. Hand her over now. This is your last chance. Scarlett looked at the blank wall. Calmly, she said, "I don't know any Vivian." I roared, "Scarlett, you don't need to get involved. You're the daughter of the Scarlett Company's chairperson. Your life is bright." She looked at me, smiled, and stayed calm. Her smile told me everything without words. Her life was saved by Vivian. Nothing could make her betray Vivian. I took a deep breath. We've blocked the exits at the airport and high-speed rail. Vivian can't leave the city. She has no ID, can't stay in hotels, so she's probably hiding in one of your houses. You have 6 properties in this city. We'll check them all. We'll find her. Scarlett's smile didn't change. Like a robot, she repeated, "I don't know what you're talking about." I closed the interrogation room door and slumped in the hallway, exhausted. The young officer came over anxiously. "Tessa, what should we do? Should we apply for a search warrant?" I shook my head. Vivian isn't in Scarlett's house. Otherwise, she wouldn't react that way. The officer muttered, "But Vivian is in the city. She can't appear publicly. Someone must be hiding her." I closed my eyes. Who could it be? Who would help a fugitive wanted by the police? A shy intern called me, "Tessa." I was tired. "Is this about signing reimbursements?" "I'll handle it tonight." She shook her head. I had some free time, so I checked Claire. She was sent to a mental hospital in high school. I didn't look up. I already knew. It was in the last part of her statement. That's why her testimony couldn't be used as evidence. But the intern continued, making me tremble. That hospital closed 5 years ago due to violations. They were illegally giving patients electric shocks. Many patients weren't actually sick. They were forced there by relatives, because they were gay. I snapped my head up. The intern's lips moved quickly. I asked Claire's neighbors. They said in high school, she liked girls. Her stepfather declared her sick and sent her to this hospital in front of the neighborhood. I shivered. In high school, I muttered. Claire's high school, what was it? This was peripheral info we had overlooked. Jianqing no. 5 high, the intern said. My mind exploded. I rushed to the computer and pulled up Gemma's records. High school, Jianqing no. 5. Everything clicked. Claire told the fake Scarlett she didn't love Sawyer, not to save herself, but because it was true. She didn't love him at all. That night, the two women in the room with Sawyer were both there to kill him. So the person hiding Vivian was Claire. Vivian sat across from me. So, do she and I really look alike? She asked. Pretty much, I said. Even your voices are similar. Do you love her? She had asked me that several times before. Only this time, it was the right question. Yes, I said. I loved her very much. Gemma was the kindest girl I'd ever met. When I was bullied at school, she stood up for me. Naturally, the bullies turned their attention on her. They tore her homework to pieces and stuffed glue into her pencil case. Gemma didn't want me to be upset, so she secretly hid the destroyed work so I wouldn't find out. But I found out anyway. I cried so hard, I wanted to fight them. Gemma stopped me, holding me close and gently soothing me. Claire, don't waste your time on them, she said. Let's study together, go to college together, and leave this place. I promised her, but I couldn't keep it. In senior year, my stepfather discovered my diary. I was sent to a mental hospital. Apparently, the director was his friend. He strapped me into an electroshock chair and forced me to admit I was sick. At first, I refused. But after too many shocks, I gave in. I admitted I was ill. Even so, I still loved Gemma. When the director was arrested, I was finally released. I didn't go to Gemma immediately. I didn't want her to see me like that. I enrolled in a prep class, studied until late every night, and eventually got into college, right next to Gemma's. I went to see her. She was genuinely happy for me, then told me she was in a relationship. For a long time, I avoided her calls. I didn't blame her, I just didn't know how to face her. Eventually, I understood. I liked her, and she liked someone else. It was fine. I only wanted her to be happy. I decided to apologize for ignoring her before. But when I reached her campus, a crowd had gathered around a building, with police cars parked nearby. I couldn't get in, so I messaged her, I'm here. Did something happen at school? No reply. I went back to my dorm and slept. When I woke up, I was told the girl who jumped from the building was Gemma. Countless times, I thought maybe she wanted to ask me for help. Someone manipulated deeply like that often can't save themselves, they need outside help. But Gemma had few friends. Her past bullying made her isolate herself even in college. My arrival made her feel like she finally had a friend. Yet when she tried to confide in me, I hung up. After Gemma's death, I went back to school and internships. But a voice kept echoing in my mind. I'm going to kill him. I'm going to kill him. I'm going to kill him. The voice grew stronger and more frequent. Finally, I acted. I didn't expect someone else would strike at the exact same time as me. I asked Vivian, when did you realize I was here to kill Sawyer too? Vivian said calmly, from the moment you read that text and didn't react, I knew something was off. I'm unusually sensitive to killing intent. I only confirmed it when I saw the 2 red wine glasses in the room. I was silent. Yes, I had lied to Tessa. Not really lied, but I had concealed some truth. I told Tessa that the fake Scarlett made pear water for Sawyer in the kitchen after we had wine, and he fell asleep on the sofa. That part was true, but Sawyer didn't fall asleep from pear water, it was the wine I had laced. Everything else I told Tessa was mostly accurate, but I omitted that part. Vivian saw me wake up while disposing of bodies by the river. She didn't panic. She approached me. 1 hour later, go report to the police, she said. And you? I asked. She didn't answer, walking away. I shouted an address after her. This is my home. You can come find me. Now Vivian sat on my sofa. She told me about her life with her grandmother and Scarlett. I told her about Gemma and me. Outside, police sirens wailed in the distance. We both knew it was the final moment. The building was surrounded. Tessa was coming. They were about to storm in. Then Vivian did something completely unexpected. She grabbed my neck, holding a bone-cutting knife at my throat. What are you doing? I whispered. I left a gift for Scarlett, she said. You'll deliver it for me. I suddenly understood. Vivian hadn't come to hide. She had already planned her ending. She wasn't escaping, she came to pull me out. Tessa would eventually trace me. She would realize I wasn't a victim. I was a failed killer. Vivian had come for her final act, to make me the victim. She led me out step by step. The sun was just right, the air calm. She raised the knife toward my chest. 22. Tessa. I saw Vivian strike at Claire. At the same instant, the sniper's red dot locked on Vivian's forehead. I wanted to scream, to tell her not to do it, but it was too late. The knife pierced Claire. The sniper pulled the trigger. The bullet struck Vivian in the forehead. The bone-cutting knife she had carried for years fell to the ground. She collapsed, a peaceful smile on her face. I realized this was her planned ending. Police stormed in. Claire was wrapped in a blanket and loaded into an ambulance. Her eyes were red, tears glistening. I stood frozen, staring into the distance. 20 years later, the last person from the 418 case was finally caught. The nameless girl walked into the ending she had arranged for herself. 23. Epilogue. At dusk, Claire walked to the river, the same place Vivian had disposed of bodies. Following the path downstream, she reached the river mouth. Near some rocks, she dug into the soil and finally uncovered a box. It was Vivian's gift for Scarlett. Claire opened it. Inside was a neatly folded letter with a drawing of two little girls running side by side under the sunset. Below the drawing, Vivian wrote, "I saw the sea." Claire looked up. Behind her, the sun was sinking into the ocean, carrying all the known and unknown stories silently into the horizon.